which happens to be one of my dad's favorite dishes, and it has its French origins. Making beef Wellington is a 2-day process. What you're going to see here is we're making the marinade for the beef Wellington because it has to marinate for 24 hours. What I've done is laid out all the ingredients to make the marinade. The recipe goes like this. We have 1/3 cup of cooking oil and half a cup each of sliced onions, carrots, and celery stalks, and 1/4 teaspoon each of thyme and sage, and 1 bay leaf, and 3 whole allspice, 6 peppercorns. Well, I thought we had peppercorns, but it turns out we didn't, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute the 6 peppercorns with crushed black pepper. And we'll also have a teaspoon of salt. And it calls for 1 cup of dry vermouth, but we don't have that either, so my dad happens to be a very experienced winemaker, has lots of wine in the wine cellar, and so I'm going to substitute the vermouth for this 1 cup of homemade dry apple wine that my dad made last year. Well, what I'm going to do before I start chopping, I'm going to heat up my pan to a medium-low heat while I'm chopping. We're just going to do a rough chop with these carrots and everything, so that's all we're going to do. Chop it. I'm going to wash this celery before I chop it. Chop off the tough ends of these celeries, and I'm also going to leave the leaves on because they're very savory. And before I chop my onion, I'm going to put my oil in the pan. I'm going to just eyeball about 1/3 of a cup. That looks about right. Dad, these things are making my eyes water and burn. They are! This looks like about enough of the chopped vegetables. I'm going to turn this down so it's a little too hot. And I'm going to grab this oven mitt. Where's the time? And save. And that was the 3 whole allspice. Recipe says now to cover the pan and cook slowly until vegetables are tender.
Time now for a juice stop.
Now here we are, and we're going to make apple basic juice. And this time it's not just apples. This time we're using carrots with it. I don't know why it's called apple basic. If it's with carrots, but we use 2 medium-sized carrots and 3 regular-sized apples. And then, what is it called again? Whatever. Now, before I start up the juicer, I'll cut up the apple. This time I'm just going to use the slicer. And since the juicer doesn't since it has such a small straining thing, before I get started with the juicing process, we have to get the juicer started. Engine doesn't. Yeah. Here we have apple basic with carrots and apples. And before I drink this, I want to stir up. I want to stir up the froth from the apples and the carrots, because the carrots make a really orange juice. Get a new cup. Try this lemon juice. Delicious. Now when you're done with your juicing, just remember to clean the juicer, of course.
This has been a kitchen concerto in B minor juice stop.
I'm going to turn this back up to medium low and I'm going to put this cover for 10 minutes. I finished cooking these vegetables for 10 minutes now. And so now we have to get with the beef tenderloin. And I've already stuck it in this thing I'm going to marinate. It's approximately 6 pounds. Big. Coarse salt. And I sprinkle all over the tenderloin. I'm gonna salt the other side after I flipped the tenderloin and washed my hands. Now I'm gonna sprinkle my vegetables that I cooked in the pan for 10 minutes. I sprinkle them all evenly over the tenderloin because it's supposed to be a marinade. And get another pot. Not over the meat. Didn't pour it directly on the meat so I don't wash off the salt and the vegetables and stuff. Now we have to cover it and put it in the refrigerator for 24 hours to marinate. Okay, what I have here is 1 pound of mushrooms that I'm going to make really fine in the food processor because I prefer the food processor to the knife for mushrooms. I'm making duck cells with these mushrooms, and duck cells is a paste for the beef Wellington that we're making with the Christmas party too. I'm going to mince up the mushrooms in the food processor. Watch. Processor is truly magic. Okay, I've finished getting the skins off these shallots. Make it easier for me, so just dump them in the food processor. How do you want them chopped?
That's fine.
Now what do I do, Mom?
Oh, this.
With mushrooms or by themselves? Boy, that's terrible. It's just the same as onions.
Awesome.
Okay, I have a pan heating here, and I'm going to melt butter, and I'm going to saute the mushrooms and the shallots to make a paste, a mushroom paste for the duck cells, which is for the beef Wellington. Mom just threw in a shot of olive oil so that it helps heat with the heat so that the butter does not brown or burn. Now we're dumping in the mushrooms to start sauteing. And then I'm going to put the shallots in. And mix it all with the butter and the mushroom. Mushroom, butter, shallots. We're going to saute this for about 7 to 8 minutes until the mushrooms start separating. Take a look at these mushrooms. They're just starting to separate. They're not quite done yet, but they're just starting. Okay, turn the burner. My mom turned the burner up a little higher, and the mushrooms are pretty much done and growing up and bubble for just a little longer. And then we're going to add this wine. And the recipe calls for Madeira or rose wine, and we don't have either of those. But from my dad's fabulous wine cellar, we have a heavy onion wine, which is very fabulous for cooking. Awesome. It tastes wonderful and smells wonderful in the cooking. We're supposed to add next to the duck sauce is foie gras. Foie gras is like a paste made from specially fattened goose or duck lips. Yuck. Where we live, there is no place where we can get foie gras, so in its place, we're going to use bouillon chicken base paste. See how the mushroom and the liquid is almost evaporated? It's almost ready to put the paste stuff in. It says to add salt and pepper to taste to this duck sauce paste, but since this chicken base paste stuff has lots of salt, we're not going to add any salt until after we taste it because it needs salt. Okay, so we used 3 tablespoons of this bouillon paste, and we tasted it, and it's delicious, and the salt isn't too much, but it's bold, which is good because it's supposed to be patted around the beef tenderloin for the beef Wellington. This is the pastry making part of the beef Wellington. Right now, I'm putting the lard for the pastry crust. We have half a pound of lard here for the pastry crust. There's 3 cups of flour in the food processor, and that's also for the pastry crust. Mom is putting 2 teaspoons of salt in there with the flour right now. Putting the lard in the flour right now. This is best. Lard is the best greasy substance to make pastry crust. It makes it flaky and delicious. You know, lard is probably just
until it's coarse crumbles.
I need a pulse. We have 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, 1 egg, and 1/4 cup of cold water. Beat them all together. crust into a ball here. I'm just gonna just wrap it up in this plastic wrap, letting it sit until we're ready to wrap the beef Wellington in the pastry crust. We're gonna take this beef out of the marinade and we're gonna scrape the marinade off. Marinade.
Do you want to just have me get my hands on the cake? Paper towel. We're going to dry it. We're going to pat it all dry.
Drying the meat off here is a very important part of French cooking. The reason why it's important to dry the meat is because if it's wet, when you pre-bake this Wellington, and if it's wet, it's steamed, and if it's dry, it'll bake properly, pre-bake. Roast.
Okay, so
Now we're gonna rub it down with oil.
Good. That's what you use.
It's good for the entire trim.
No, we're going to baste it every 5 minutes with oil. Now, transfers.
And roll out the pastry crust for beef Wellington. We're putting the beef tenderloin on the pastry crust, and then we're putting the duck cells on the beef tenderloin, and then we're going to wrap it up and bake it until the beef Wellington.
Okay, now we're going to rinse our hands.
Breaking.
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
It's not going to get pretty yet. It's going to be the tastiest.
it'll be like a large, flaky crust.
Want a spatula?
Yeah. Nice.
Patchy.
Wait, before we use all of that,
Stacking it up.
This.
When it starts sliding on the floor and banging and crashing, you know
Careful.
there's enough
and this one's not going to go. Oh, great. Now we need some pan.
Here is the beef Wellington. Crust doesn't look very pretty, but it sure tastes nice. Here's marinated beef tenderloin for people with allergies. And here's béarnaise sauce for the beef Wellington.